Hi, this is Anna Horn reporting live from AK4 News.
Also reporting live, I'm Kyle Crestis. Here on AK4 News, we cover everything from worldwide cricket to Civil War battles. Without AK4 News, you wouldn't know what to do.
Thank you.
Welcome back to AK4 News. Today I will be touching on the cricket segment of our sports broadcast. So today is October 34th, 3:45. Wow, I just got a breaking news text. No, that is a call. That is from one of our reporters, Anna Horn, that you met earlier. Hello. Wow, are you serious? I just got word that there's been a shot fired northwest of Gettysburg at the intersection of Knox Road and 30 Chamberlain Pike. And this is the Union versus fighting the Confederates. Excuse me, sorry. But we'll give you back on that on this breaking news. Thank you. After receiving word about the viral incident that went down in Gettysburg,
We want to give you some background information of what the Civil War truly is.
hello, AK4 News, and so we're back on the segment about the background on the Civil War. The Civil War started 1861 on April 12th, and it also ended 4 years later on May 9th, 1865. So today we'll be talking about what are the differences between the Union and the South in the Battle of Gettysburg exactly.
So, when the Southern states decided to break away, they made their own country called the Confederate States of America, or the Confederacy. They wrote down their own constitution and even had their own president, Jefferson Davis. The Confederacy was made up of 11 southern states, including South Carolina, Mississippi, Florida, Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana, Texas, Virginia, Arkansas, North Carolina, and Tennessee.
So, and now I will be talking about the North, is also the Union. The North consisted of the remaining 25 states, which were located in, of course, the North. The North was also called the Union to symbolize that they wanted the United States to remain a single country, also the Union. The North was bigger and had more industry than the South. They had a lot more people, resources, and wealth, giving them an advantage in the Civil War.
So now I'm going to talk about why did the southern states want to leave? The southern states were worried that the U.S. expanded. They would gain less power. They wanted the states to have more power and be able to make their own laws. One of the laws they worried about was losing the right to have slaves. Many northern states had outlawed slavery and were worried that the United States would outlaw slavery in all the states.
And now for a key segment about who was the president during the Civil War. Abraham Lincoln was the president during the Civil War. He wanted a stronger federal government and was against slavery. It was his election that the Civil War started and triggered the southern states leaving. He was determined that the country could remain united.
The Civil War was the deadliest war in American history. Over 600,000 soldiers died in the war, and the fighting started at Fort Sumner in South Carolina on April 12, 1861. The Civil War ended on April 9, 1865, when General Robert E. Lee surrendered.
So earlier we touched base in our segment about the shot in Gettysburg that changed history forever. Now we're going to talk about what happened after, from 7:30 a.m. that day to 2:15 p.m.
So first off, we're going to talk about at 11 a.m. Two divisions of the Union 11th Corps arrive and take positions north of town.
Exactly about 3 hours later, one of the one-legged Confederate lieutenants, General Richard Wool, division arrived and engaged the right flank on the 1st Union Corps.
At 2:10 p.m., General Robert E. Lee arrives to find Heath preparing for a new attack.
And then about 5 minutes later, another division of Ewell's attacks the 11th Corps position. Thank you, and we'll touch base on what happened at 3 p.m. to midnight next segment. Thank you so much. This has been AK4 News. Last segment on AK4 News, we covered what happened in the Gettysburg battle between 7:30 a.m. all the way to 2:15 p.m. when the first shots were fired. Now in this next segment, we're going to talk about what happened from 3 p.m. all the way to midnight. This is our reporter, Anna Horn.
Okay, so starting off with 3 p.m. It's where the Eternal Light Peace Memorial now stands. Confederate Major General Robert Rhodes' division launches an attack. With 5 brigades, it's the largest division in either army.
Now for 4 p.m. Jewell's early division of Ewell's Corps arrives from the northeast on Harrisburg Road and caused the right flank of the 11th Corps, 2 small divisions known as the Dutch Corps, which are mainly German Americans, to buckle. This sets off a chain reaction down the 2-mile Union line. The 1st and 11th Corps retreat through the town Cemetery Hill and Culp's Hill. Major General Oliver Otis Howard, one armed commander of the 11th Corps, had reserved a 3rd smaller division to fortify Cemetery Hill in case of a retreat.
Okay, so now for 5 p.m. Confederates appear to have won, but to complete the job, Lee tells Ewell, whose 3rd Division is arriving, to attack Cemetery Hill if practical. Ewell decides against it.
And now, during and after midnight, Union General Meade arrives and decides to stay and fight the next day from the strong defensive position. Thank you, and that's all, folks. So on our next segment, we're going to talk about Day 2 of the Gettysburg Battle, which is going to be before dawn all the way to overnight. So the troops were marching basically all day and all night till 4 p.m.
At 4 p.m., after a long march to avoid observation, Longstreet's troop attack, led by Evander Law's brigade. The Army Chief of Engineers, Brigadier General Warren, spots them coming, and Brigadier General Strong Vincent leads his men into position on Little Round Top. The 20th Maine, commanded by Colonel Joshua Lawrence.
Then, at 7 p.m., in desperate defensive position on Little Round Top, Chamberlain gives the order, "Bayonet!" and the Union men charged down the hill. Now for 8 p.m.
So at 8 p.m., the Confederates still hold the Peach Orchard, the Wheatfield, Trossel Farm, and Devil's Den. They will control Strangler Spring overnight. Fighting between Brigadier General George S. Greene's brigade and Major General Edward Johnson's division, with 2 brigades of early divisions, becomes intense across Cemetery Hill and Culp's Hill as dusk approaches.
So later during that day, close to overnight, there's frequent firing by pickets. On the Confederate side, Pickett's division and Stewart's 3 cavalry bridges arrive. On the Union side, Major John Segwig's 6th Corps arrive. In Meade's headquarters, he takes a vote from his generals and they decide to stay and fight. And that is all for Before Dawn and Overnight.
Thank you.
Now for one of the final segments on AK4 News, we have from 4:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Day 3 of the Gettysburg Battle.
Okay, so 4:30 a.m. Union troops renew the fight at Culp's Hill. Attacks and counterattacks continue for nearly 7 hours.
And now, about 4 hours later, at 8:30 a.m., sniper fire between Confederate troops barricaded in town and Union troops on Cemetery Hill continues throughout the day.
At 1 p.m., Stuart leads his Confederate cavalry around to confront the Union rear, including Brigadier General George Armstrong Custer along Cemetery Ridge.
And now, about 7 minutes later, 2 cannon shots fire from Seminary Ridge, the signal for Confederates to harden the attack near the now famous Corpse of Trees on Cemetery Ridge. The Union side retaliates. Oh, and also, I forgot to say, there are almost 2 hours of rapid fire from about 250 cannons. And now, between 2 p.m.
Okay, so between 2 p.m. and 3 p.m., the Confederate batteries run low on ammunition. Major General George E. Pickett asks Longstreet, "General, shall I advance?" and receives a nod to carry out the now famous Pickett's Charge.
Pickett's Charge. And so now about at 4 p.m., Brigadier General Lewis Armstead and about 200 men make it through the angle in stone wall, but he is mortally wounded as he places his hand on the enemy cannon to capture it. The high water mark on the Confederacy is reached and the survivors retreat.
And lastly, for 5 p.m., Union Cavalry Division Commander Brigadier General Judson Kilpatrick learns of the successful repulse and organizes his own counterattack against Confederates west of the Round Top Hills. It is unsuccessful without infantry.
And that is all for the Battle of Gettysburg. So now, on Day 4, which is ironic that it's July 4th, they suffer some rain. And then on July 5th, the troops leave Gettysburg. And then on July 13, about Day 13, they head down to Virginia by the rivers. Thank you so much, and that's been AK4 News. We'll catch you next time. Welcome to AK4 News, and today on our nightly special, we have a Union war survivor that we acquired and giving a little interview. So, how was the war?
It was an awful war. It was a war, if you remember, that we knew was going to be over in just a couple of months. No one dreamed it would go for 4 years. The thing that was is we had, in some cases, brothers against brothers, families against relatives. It was a terrible war. I was at Gettysburg, and as, well, the turning point of the war. But at this war, we had over 50,000 men die. I remember standing on the hill. We knew that the Confederacy was going to do their rebel yell. We knew that they were going to have to run 3/4 of a mile to a mile, but we were ready for them. We had cannon. We had also picked up extra rifles from our own dead troops and some of their dead troops, and we were ready. And when they came charging across, we totally wiped them out. It was awful. I'll never forget it. The screams, the blood. So many people died. When you think about 650 from how many we had, if you were to go forward to say 2018, it'd be like 6 million people dying in the United States. It's an awful war. It's a hard thing to think about.
Thank you so much,
You bet.
Sir Gordon Howard. And that is it for our nightly news, AK4. Stay tuned for us tomorrow. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And that is it for the Battle of the Gettysburg.